Generation Z, the group born after 1996, is starting to see its oldest members graduate from college and enter the workforce. While much has been said about how millennials have reshaped the modern workplace, members of Generation Z are beginning to chart their own course with a very different set of expectations and outlooks for their first jobs. Economics correspondent Paul Solman met up with financial journalist Beth Kobliner to try to understand what all this means and to find out how Gen Z is approaching the world of work. It's part of our weekly series, Making Sense.
This is WeWork, another one.
WeWork, where for a monthly toll you secure a spot in a shared workspace for the young. Wi-Fi, free beer, free coffee in inspirational mugs.
Always half full.
Make a life, not just a living. So this is
These
whole...
like very much affirmations.
And perfect for college grads just moving into the job market, right?
But is it follow your bliss really a good idea at this point?
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't about following my bliss. I was about moving out of my parents' house.
But WeWork wasn't designed for old-timers like me, or even much younger youth money guru Beth Kobliner. Architect Miguel McKelvey, whom I interviewed a few years ago, co-founded it in 2010 for fellow Gen Xers and millennials.
We're a community company.
A hopping, hip sanctuary for self-starters built to accommodate any work schedule and the jobs of the future.
WeWork is the office space of tomorrow.
So, is this the future of work for the next generation, Gen Z? We gathered a diverse group of soon-to-be college grads.
What's the reaction to a place like this?
The second I walked in, I was like, wow, this is nice.
Because it has so many colors, it will be like more thought-provoking.
2 thumbs up. Yes. Good.
So the optics appealed, but are high-risk, high-reward startups their dream? Like 4Post say.
4Post is a shopping experience for today's family.
The 18-person firm runs retail pop-up shops featuring trendy brands like Polaroid. Yup, Polaroid has made a retro comeback.
So it's like a cool department store.
Way
for,
cool department store.
For
Yeah.
smaller brands that aren't going to open their own outlet at a
Or
mall.
large brands that want to test a market, like Marshall Speakers is one, Urban Ears is a great one, the headphones. You guys are young and cool, so I'm sure you heard about them.
I'm old and I have no idea what you're talking about.
They're candy-colored headphones.
Okay, cool company, but our Gen Zers had practical questions for 4Post manager Franny Shellman.
Compared to like a larger company, right? Do you guys offer like a comparable salary?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say probably in the 50s range, like that would be a entry level.
Happens to be the national average.
Which
the
is-
national average
yeah.
starting salary for college graduates, $50,000.
Typical day of work, how do you, from start to finish, how would that look like for you?
We get in mid-morning and then we're usually working through lunch. There's a lot of late nights. That's something to expect with a startup, but no one here is going to say, if you need to go home for a family thing, you can't go. We have the benefit of being able to work remotely.
So flexible work with the great allure of all startups, grow fast, move up fast. The dream of millennials who consistently rank career success and then a good work-life balance as top priorities. But Gen Zers? Kobliner set up a game to test their order of workplace preferences.
Here are 5 qualities that people look for in a job.
Salary, diversity, health insurance, meaningful work, mentorship. We'll give you a little time, less than we gave the kids, to guess their choices. Well, tied just below the top, a diverse work environment, and Gen Z is the most diverse generation in our country's history, and big surprise, a good salary.
When you go to college, you're like, okay, I need to focus on something that can fund me, my husband, my 2 kids, my house with the white picket fence. So I think that maybe the anxiety is not in getting a job, it's in getting the right job.
This school is $70,000 a year.
As we saw with Gen Z high schoolers in a recent story, the fear of being stuck on the low road of an ever more 2-track labor market always lurks. Gen Z suffered through the anxiety of the Great Recessions as kids, so small wonder they're economic pragmatists. A UCLA study found that 8 in 10 college freshmen, Gen Z's first wave, think becoming well off is a top priority, the highest level in the study's 50-year history. But even more important is securing that first job. 88% of graduating Gen Zers say they chose their majors with a job in mind. Like Saab Kabir, who began, like many of his friends, in engineering.
My brother's a lawyer, and he would tell me the people he graduated law school with, many of them didn't even get a job after law school. And it was like hard because the market was oversaturated. But if you go to a market where you know that there's jobs, I guess there's no anxiety involved. So since I did education, I'm not as worried because in New York City, we always need teachers.
For similar reasons, Lauren Quesada majors in clinical psychology.
My family always says that I'll never be out of work because as long as they're alive, there'll be people with problems. So.
But here's the answer to the quiz. All but one of our students said their top job priority was meaningful work. How many of you guessed that? Here's Jacob Clementi, for example.
Meaningful work for me means like both something that I really care about and really I want to make a difference in, and something that I think could make a difference and help other people out. And it definitely is still important to me that I'm able to make a living and able to support a family someday, but I definitely want to love what I'm doing and not dread going into work every day.
Jermaine Kale intends to become a pediatric surgeon.
If it's not meaningful, what's the point in a sense? If you're not really into what your patients are really telling you, why are you going into medicine?
But that prompted one last question from me.
So have all of you been told by professors or parents or whomever that you're going to probably have to change careers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that caused Beth Kobliner to wonder,
Where do you guys learn job skills if you realize you hadn't learned them in college?
I would probably go to YouTube or go to some type of website that can show me how to do something, like very quickly.
Missy Dreyer echoed Jermaine Kale.
I recently was working on my senior thesis and I had to last minute learn how to code, and I'd never taken computer science or anything like that. But I actually found that just kind of Googling was super helpful and I was able to do it.
And maybe this is why Gen Z can prioritize meaningful work. Because even facing career impermanence, specific skills are easier to pick up than for any generation before. For the PBS NewsHour, economics correspondent Paul Salman reporting from New York.